Forget the powdered wigs and polite ballroom dances. You're about to step into a world where love is a curse. Shadows outnumber the living, and every whisper could be the start of a nightmare. Why settle for sunny period fluff when you can have thunder, blood, and secrets that refuse to stay buried? What is it about Gothic tales that makes us crave beauty wrapped in darkness? Stick around, because what's coming will prove once and for all. Some period dramas want to haunt you forever. Penny Dreadful, 2014-2016. Let's kick things off with the granddaddy of modern Gothic drama, Penny Dreadful. If you think you know Victorian London, think again. Forget polite tea parties. Here, the rain never stops, and the monsters are just as likely to be inside your own mind as they are crawling out of the gutter. This is Gothic at its most gloriously excessive, and it does not apologize for a single drop of blood. From the first minute, Penny Dreadful feels like wandering into a candlelit fever dream, gaslit alleyways, crumbling mansions, and characters straight from the nightmares of classic literature. We're talking Dorian Gray, Frankenstein's creature, Dracula, and more, all pulled from the dustiest shelves of Gothic fiction and thrown together in a storm of lust, guilt, and existential dread. Eva Green's performance as Vanessa Ives is nothing short of iconic. She doesn't just steal scenes, she devours them, channeling heartbreak, defiance, and a supernatural menace that would make even Dracula cross himself. What really sets Penny Dreadful apart is its willingness to embrace both spectacle and soul. Every frame is lush with decaying beauty, velvet, candlelight, and blood, all mingling into a visual symphony that's equal parts art and nightmare. But this isn't just window dressing. At its core, Penny Dreadful is about trauma, personal, historic, and supernatural. Every main character is waging a private war against their own demons, and the show refuses to give easy answers or happy endings. Instead, it leans into pain, loss, and the kind of redemption that feels as costly as damnation itself. But don't think it's all gloom and doom. Penny Dreadful is surprisingly witty, with a sly sense of humor that cuts through the darkness. You'll find yourself grinning one moment and gasping the next, because here, even hope comes dressed in black. The impact? It set the new gold standard for TV Gothic, making every supernatural drama that followed feel a little less daring by comparison. So if you're looking for a series that makes haunted houses feel like home, Penny Dreadful is waiting, and trust me, it never lets you go. Crimson Peak, 2015. If haunted mansions are your thing, then Crimson Peak is the kind of fevered love letter you didn't know you needed. Guillermo del Toro takes the skeleton of a classic Gothic romance and drenches it in color, shadow, and the unmistakable scent of something rotting beneath the roses. Forget polite ghosts. This movie wants to wrap you in velvet, whisper you a bedtime story, and then keep you up all night with the nightmares that follow. From the moment Mia Wasikowska's Edith steps inside Allerdale Hall, a sprawling, decaying mansion perched on a hill where the very walls seem to bleed red, you know you're not in a safe story. Tom Hiddleston and Jessica Chastain play siblings with secrets thick as the English fog, spinning a web of obsession, forbidden love, and old crimes clawing their way back to the surface. The house itself is the real star, groaning and sighing like a living thing, dripping clay and malice through every floorboard. What makes Crimson Peak unforgettable isn't just the ghosts that stalk the halls or the deaths that seem inevitable. It's the way beauty and horror are tangled up so tightly you can't pull them apart. Del Toro paints every frame like a nightmare you want to get lost in, all lush fabrics, flickering candles, and corridors that seem to stretch on forever. The fear here is both elegant and brutal. These ghosts don't want revenge. They want acknowledgement. They want to be seen, heard, and understood, even if it means tearing down the walls between the living and the dead. At its core, Crimson Peak is about how love and loss can both haunt you, how memory stains everything it touches, and how sometimes the real monsters are the people you think you know best. And yes, there's a streak of wicked humor that keeps things from getting too heavy. Because even in a house full of secrets, someone's got to laugh at the absurdity of it all. In the end, Crimson Peak doesn't just want to scare you, it wants to seduce you into loving the darkness, right until the last candle burns out. Rebecca 2020. Step through the gates of Manderley if you dare, because Rebecca is the sort of Gothic labyrinth that swallows the weak whole, and even the strong don't leave unchanged. Forget sanitized romance. This is obsession, dread, and regret, all dressed up in the most civilized of clothing. Ben Wheatley's adaptation of Daphne du Maurier's classic is a glossy fever dream, but beneath the sunlit facades, the darkness is always lurking, ready to slip its cold hand into yours. The story follows the unnamed second Mrs. De Winter, who finds herself swept off her feet by the dashing Maxim De Winter and installed as lady of a grand estate that seems to pulse with the memory of Maxim's first wife, Rebecca. Kristen Scott Thomas as Mrs. Danvers is the very definition of elegant menace. She doesn't just run the house, she rules the atmosphere, turning every innocent gesture into a potential threat. There's a reason she's become a blueprint for all Gothic antagonists. Mrs. Danvers makes cruelty look like an art form. But the real ghost in Rebecca isn't a woman in white or a specter rattling chains. It's memory itself. Every room in Manderley is haunted by the presence of the absent Rebecca, so much so that the living become as trapped and voiceless as the dead. The cinematography bathes everything in a honeyed glow, making the suffocating suspense feel even more disorienting. Is Maxime a victim or a villain? Is love enough to survive the weight of secrets? The film refuses to give easy answers, preferring to twist the knife with each new revelation. In the end, Rebecca is a masterclass in psychological Gothic, showing that sometimes the most terrifying ghosts are the ones you never actually see. It's a slow, sweet poison, one sip and you're hooked, even as the dread creeps in. The lesson here? In Manderley, nothing is ever as pretty as it seems, and the past is never really dead. The Terror Season 1, 2018. What happens when you drop a band of explorers into the Arctic wasteland and leave them at the mercy of both the elements and their own unraveling minds? You get The Terror, a period drama so chilling it'll make your bones ache. This isn't just about frostbite and famine. This is Gothic at its most merciless, where survival means wrestling with the monsters inside and out. Based on the real-life doomed Franklin expedition, The Terror follows the crews of two ships, Erebus and Terror, as they search for the Northwest Passage and end up trapped in endless night, freezing winds, and a landscape that seems to resent every step they take. But the real terror isn't just the biting cold or dwindling rations. It's what isolation does to the human soul. Paranoia creeps in, relationships rot from the inside, and every noise in the dark could mean disaster. There's a monster on the ice, a supernatural force that stalks and kills, but it's never as terrifying as the slow collapse of order and hope among the men. The show brilliantly blurs the line between the supernatural and the psychological. Is the beast real, or is it the projection of collective guilt, desperation, and madness? It's never fully explained, which only makes the horror sharper and the suspense more suffocating. Visually, The Terror is a feast for fans of bleak beauty. Endless ice fields, candlelit cabins, faces shadowed with hunger and fear. The period details are immaculate, plunging you headfirst into the claustrophobia of 19th century exploration. Every decision feels like a moral crossroads, and every mistake leaves a scar, sometimes literal, sometimes on the soul. By the end, you'll be questioning who the real monsters are. If you want your Gothic with a side of historical tragedy and existential dread, The Terror will freeze your heart and haunt your dreams long after the credits roll. Don't say you weren't warned. Great Expectations 2011 BBC miniseries. You might think you know Dickens, Orphans, Rags to Riches, Dusty Old London. But this BBC miniseries gleefully rips the comfort blanket away and exposes Great Expectations for what it really is. A Gothic nightmare of twisted love, revenge, and ghostly regret. This isn't the bedtime story your grandmother told you. This is heartbreak, decay, and desperation with the volume turned up. Pip's story is a familiar one, an orphan plucked from obscurity and tossed into a world of wealth, ambition, and heartbreak. But here, every step up the social ladder feels like a dance with the devil. The real showstopper is Gillian Anderson's Miss Havisham, the living corpse in a wedding dress, doomed to pace her rotting mansion as the world decays around her. She's both villain and victim, turning her pain into a poison that seeps into every relationship Pip will ever have. It's Gothic tragedy at its finest, every cobweb and faded rose a monument to heartbreak. But this adaptation doesn't stop at atmosphere. It dives deep into the rot beneath respectability. The marshes are bleak, the streets are cruel, and love is just another way to get your heart broken. Estella, raised to be cold and cruel, is every bit as tragic as she is beautiful, and Pip's yearning for her feels less like romance and more like a curse. The show doesn't shy away from the brutality of the time, poverty, betrayal, and the relentless grip of the past. Visually, it's a feast for Gothic eyes. Flickering candles, haunted halls, shadows that seem to have a life of their own. You can almost smell the mold and dust. But at the heart of it all is the question, Can you ever escape where you come from? Or does the past always have a hand on your shoulder? In this world, hope is rare, but it's all the more precious for it. This is the Dickens adaptation for people who think classic literature should be equal parts beautiful and bone-chilling. If you want to feel the weight of every regret, every broken promise, and every spectral whisper, start here. Jane Eyre, 2011. You haven't experienced Gothic heartbreak until you've watched Jane Eyre roam the windswept moors, running from both her own desires and the secrets that Thornfield Hall is desperate to hide. This 2011 adaptation strips the classic down to its bones, stormy skies, aching silences, and a heroine who refuses to be broken by either love or cruelty. If you want Gothic drama that's both tender and terrifying, Jane Eyre is your new obsession. Mia Wasikowska's Jane is all quiet strength, her eyes burning with a longing that's impossible to ignore. Michael Fassbender's Rochester is the very definition of brooding, hiding enough secrets to drown a lesser soul. The chemistry between them isn't just romantic, it's electric, dangerous, and fraught with the kind of tension that makes you forget to breathe. But this isn't a simple love story. It's about power, freedom, and the cost of staying true to yourself in a world determined to crush you. The real villain here isn't a ghost or a monster, but the walls that society and our own trauma build around us. Thornfield is a labyrinth of locked doors and whispered rumors, and every shadow feels heavy with the past. When the secrets finally burst into the open, the result is both devastating and liberating. The Gothic is in the atmosphere, the longing and the knowledge that every heart carries a wound. Visually, the film is all storm clouds and candlelight, echoing the turbulence in Jane's soul. The wild moors aren't just scenery, they're a character, untamed and fierce, reflecting Jane's own internal battles. If you ever doubted that restraint could be as powerful as a scream, watch Jane Eyre and be proved wrong. In the end, this adaptation is proof that Gothic isn't just about monsters or murder. It's about the courage to love, the terror of vulnerability, and the ghosts that memory leaves behind. Prepare to be haunted in the best possible way. The Others, 2011. It takes guts to make a haunted house story that doesn't just rely on cheap scares, but The Others is a masterclass in how to do it right. Nicole Kidman delivers a performance that's all nerves, grief, and slowly unraveling sanity. This is a period drama where the shadows do more than just move. They watch, wait, and whisper. The real terror isn't what's outside, but what you're forced to confront when the world goes quiet. Set in the aftermath of World War II, the story follows Grace, a woman living in a remote, fog-bound mansion with her two light-sensitive children. The rules are simple: no sunlight, no strangers, and no questions about what really happened to their father. But when servants arrive who seem to know more than they should, and doors begin opening by themselves, Grace's carefully controlled world starts to unravel. What makes The Others unforgettable is its commitment to atmosphere over spectacle. Every squeak, every creak, and every whispered secret feels loaded with dread. The house itself is a character, claustrophobic and suffocating, with each closed door hinting at something unspeakable on the other side. There's a twist, of course, but even once the secrets are out, the sense of unease never really leaves. But the film isn't just about scares, it's about the way grief warps reality, turning memory into a prison. Grace's struggle to protect her children is both heroic and tragic, as she fights against threats that may not even exist. The horror here is intimate, psychological, and all the more effective for its restraint. You'll find yourself jumping at shadows long after the credits roll. If you're tired of ghosts that just pop out and yell, The Others will show you how real fear is built. One sigh, one locked room, one slowly dawning realization at a time. It's Gothic storytelling at its most elegant and unnerving, and it proves that sometimes the darkest secrets are the ones we keep from ourselves. Crimson Petal and the White, 2011. If you think the Victorian era was just tea parties and stiff collars, Crimson Petal and the White is here to drag you into the mud, and you'll love every grimy second. This miniseries, based on Michael Faber's acclaimed novel, doesn't just flirt with darkness, it weds itself to it in a back alley behind the gas lamps. Here, beauty and brutality are inextricably linked, and every character wears a mask that's one tremor away from shattering. The story follows Sugar, a sharp-witted prostitute with literary ambitions, played with haunting precision by Ruth Wilson. Sugar's world is one of survival, where even the possibility of love is colored by violence, power, and the cold reality of Victorian London's underbelly. When she attracts the attention of William Rackham, an ambitious but weak-willed perfume magnate, a twisted triangle forms. one built on obsession, lies, and secrets so deep you'd need a shovel to find daylight. But don't expect easy melodrama. Crimson Petal and the White peels back the facade of Victorian morality, revealing the rot beneath the surface. The brothels, alleyways, and drawing rooms are all shot through with menace, every flickering candle and velvet curtain hiding as much pain as pleasure. The show doesn't flinch from its characters' desperation. It gives you every bruise, every heartbreak, every whispered hope that maybe, just maybe, they can claw their way out. The impact? This isn't just a story about the exploited. It's about the dangerous power of dreams in a world designed to crush them. Sugar isn't a victim. She's a survivor, willing to use her mind and her pain as weapons. Every twist and betrayal hits hard, and by the end, you'll be questioning who the real monsters are, the ones in the alleys or the ones in drawing rooms. Crimson Petal and the White is not just a period drama, it's a dark, glittering poison, impossible to forget. If you crave your Gothic with grit, guts, and a splash of candlelit glamour, dive in. Just don't expect to come out clean. Wuthering Heights, 2011. Some stories don't just haunt you, they howl through your bones. Andrea Arnold's 2011 adaptation of Wuthering Heights rips away the corsets and lace, leaving you with the wild, raw heart of Emily Bronte's Gothic classic. This isn't your high school lit class version. This is Wuthering Heights stripped down to mud, wind, and the kind of love that can ruin you for life. Heathcliff, played with animalistic ferocity, isn't the brooding romantic you've heard about. He's a force of nature, battered and embittered, lashing out at a world that will never fully accept him. Catherine is equally untamed, a soul so restless and fierce that no amount of drawing room propriety can contain her. The love between them isn't sweet, it's a storm, always on the verge of destruction, and it's the land itself, those endlessly bleak Yorkshire moors, that gives the story its Gothic pulse. What sets this adaptation apart is its brutal realism. Forget sweeping orchestral scores and gentle sunsets. Here, the camera lingers on dirt under fingernails, rain-soaked skin, and the suffocating silence of isolation. The landscape isn't just a backdrop. It's a living, breathing character, as capable of violence as the people who roam it. The horror is in the way longing can become poison, in how bitterness passes from generation to generation, like a curse. And yet, for all its darkness, there's beauty here too, a wild, tragic beauty that refuses to be tamed. The Gothic isn't in jump scares or cheap thrills. It's in the way grief, longing, and rage shape every decision, every doomed romance, every haunted stare across the mist. If you want a period drama that will leave you raw, shaken, and breathless, Wuthering Heights is the storm you've been waiting for. Just don't expect to find shelter. The Woman in Black, 2012. You know a ghost story is good when it makes you check the locks twice before bed. The Woman in Black doesn't just creep under your skin, it sets up camp and redecorates. Daniel Radcliffe ditches his boy wizard persona and plunges headlong into the fog-drenched terror of Edwardian England, where grief and guilt have a habit of manifesting in ways no one can explain or escape. Arthur Kipps is a solicitor sent to the remote, decaying Eel Marsh house to settle an estate that's soaked in more tragedy than rainwater. But this isn't just a job. Arthur's mourning the death of his wife, and the silence of the house seems to echo with loss. Every room is a trap, every toy in the nursery a trigger, and then there's the Woman in Black herself, a vengeful spirit whose hatred is so potent it corrupts everything it touches. What makes this film so satisfyingly Gothic isn't just the spectral scares, though there are plenty, delivered with delicious restraint. It's the overwhelming sense of sorrow and inevitability. The Woman in Black isn't just haunting Eel Marsh, she's haunting the very concept of hope. The village's silence, the fog that never lifts, the rituals meant to keep the past at bay. It all adds up to a dread that lingers long after the credits roll. Director James Watkins delivers a masterclass in atmosphere, using shadow, stillness, and sound to tighten the screws until you're squirming. The horror isn't flashy, it's elegant and unrelenting, and the payoff is both terrifying and oddly beautiful. In the end, The Woman in Black isn't just about what goes bump in the night. It's about the darkness that follows you even in the daylight. If you crave your Gothic with equal parts chills and emotion, pour yourself a cup of something strong and let this one in. Just keep the lights on. The Haunting, 1963. Before streaming made haunted houses trendy, The Haunting set the standard and left the bar trembling. This black and white classic is proof that you don't need digital ghosts or jump scares to mess with your head. You just need a camera, a cursed house, and characters one step away from falling apart. Based on Shirley Jackson's seminal novel, The Haunting Plants You Inside Hill House, a mansion so twisted in design and reputation, even the walls seem to lean in and listen. Julie Harris's Eleanor is all nerves and need, a woman fleeing a life of loneliness only to find that some houses recognize their own. The group of ghost hunters assembled to document the house's phenomena quickly realize they're not just fighting poltergeists. They're battling their own trauma, isolation, and doubts. What makes The Haunting so enduring is its subtlety. Director Robert Wise knows the scariest thing is what you don't see, letting darkness, silence, and suggestion do most of the heavy lifting. There's no gore, no CGI, just the slow tightening of fear as doors close by themselves and voices call from nowhere. The ambiguity, are the ghosts real or is Eleanor coming apart, keeps you glued to the screen and gnawing your knuckles. Hill House itself is the greatest character, a maze of endless halls and shifting shadows that feels alive, hungry, and waiting. You're not just watching a haunting, you're being drawn into one. And the ending? Let's just say it sticks with you, crawling into your thoughts whenever the wind howls outside your window. For those who believe less is more, and the Gothic is best served with psychological torment, The Haunting is the original and the best. Enter, if you dare. Portrait of a Lady on Fire, 2019. Gothic isn't always castles and curses. Sometimes it's longing so intense it feels supernatural, desire and doom swirling together on the windswept coast of 18th century France. Portrait of a Lady on Fire is a haunting love story, painted with firelight and secrets, where even the silences are loaded with threat and promise. The story is simple. Marianne, an artist, is hired to secretly paint Eloise, a young woman destined for a loveless marriage. But this isn't just a portrait. It's a slow, burning collision of two souls trapped by tradition and expectation. The isolation of the estate, the wildness of the sea, and the ever-present sense of something forbidden all combine to create an atmosphere that's as tense as it is beautiful. Director Céline Sciamma crafts every frame like a Gothic painting, moody, saturated, bursting with emotion. The supernatural isn't literal here, but it haunts the story all the same. Ghosts of choices not made, love denied, futures closed off before they begin. The only monsters are the ones society creates, but their shadow falls long and dark across every stolen glance and whispered confession. It's a period drama that crackles with danger, the kind that comes from within. Every detail, from the brushstrokes to the flicker of candlelight, feels loaded with meaning. When the final moments arrive, they hit with the force of a storm. This is the Gothic of heartbreak, of longing so fierce it becomes its own haunting. If you're looking for beauty laced with sorrow, for a story that lingers like smoke, Portrait of a Lady on Fire is your invitation to the dark side of love. Taboo 2017. Sometimes the real ghosts are the ones created by history, by violence, secrets, and wounds that refuse to heal. Enter Taboo, Tom Hardy's dirty, dazzling period drama that drags you through the grime and glamour of early 19th century London. Here, Gothic isn't just a vibe, it's a way of life, stitched into every shadow and spilled into every back alley. Hardy's James Delaney returns from the dead, or at least from presumed death in Africa, bringing a storm of rumor, fear, and unresolved vendettas with him. London itself is a character, a labyrinth of brothels, docks, and secret societies, all humming with corruption and possibility. Delaney stalks through it like a curse, part ghost, part avenging angel, unraveling a conspiracy that stretches from his family's poisoned legacy to the highest reaches of power. What makes Taboo unforgettable is its blend of brutal realism and occult weirdness. Voodoo, ancestral spirits, whispered incantations. It's all here, woven through hard-nosed business dealings and the raw ugliness of empire. The show revels in filth, both physical and moral, showing a world where every handshake might end with a knife in the back. There's no neat line between hero and villain. Everyone is haunted by something, and nobody's hands are clean. Yet for all its darkness, Taboo is strangely beautiful, a feverish dream of revenge, redemption, and the cost of secrets. The Gothic is everywhere, in the rituals, the rumors, the glances that linger too long, the shadows that seem to move on their own. By the time the credits roll, you're left breathless, wondering if any of us can ever really escape the past. If you like your period dramas laced with madness, magic, and mayhem, Taboo isn't just a show, it's an experience, a haunted house you won't want to leave. So, Which shadowy corner would you wander first? These 13 dramas don't just tell stories, they conjure storms, raise ghosts, and dare you to fall in love with the darkness. If you're hungry for more, smash that like button, drop your own favorite Gothic tale in the comments, and make sure you're subscribed for even deeper dives. Because here, the past never sleeps, and the next haunting is always closer than you think. Ready to light another candle?